I'm Ashley Davis, developer of DataForge Notebook and author of Data Wrangling with JavaScript. DataForge Notebook is a desktop application for Windows, Linux and macOS. It's an interactive environment for prototyping and data analysis using JavaScript and TypeScript. A notebook is composed of cells. We can prototype code by writing it in a cell and executing it. Any code that works in Node.js will also work in DataForge Notebook. Output from a code cell is displayed after the code cell. We can document our code using markdown cells. This approach to coding is called literate programming. Your notebook can have as many code and markdown cells as you like. You can use drag and drop to rearrange your notebook and get it arranged however you like. You can use any library that's available on NPM. NPM libraries are installed automatically as you type code. Here I'm using the well-known Axios library to pull some data from a REST API using a HTTP request. You can see here that I'm previewing the tabular data that I got back from the REST API. DataForge Notebook excels at visualization, including charts. It can render many types of charts. You can also easily load data files into DataForge Notebook. In this example, I'm loading a CSV file, but we can easily load a JSON file or any other format. We can also load data from any database that has a library on NPM. After working on the data, we can then save it back to a file or a database. This makes DataForge Notebook a great way to do ad hoc data processing, transformations, visualizations, and analysis of data. DataForge Notebook comes with many example notebooks to help you get started and understand how to do various tasks. This example notebook is the DataForge cheat sheet, which will help you get the most out of using DataForge. Once you've finished creating a notebook, you can export it to various formats. You can export to PNG image file. You can export to a PDF document. You can even export to an interactive web page. You can export to Markdown format. Most importantly, you can export runnable JavaScript code. You can export a single JavaScript file, or you can export an entire Node.js project. Here's an example Node.js project that I've exported. You can see that there's a Node modules directory that contains all the dependencies that have automatically been installed by DataForge Notebook. You can see DataForge there. Anything you've used, any NPM libraries you've used will automatically be installed here when you export your Node.js project. You can see that a package file has been automatically generated for you. And you can see that the package file contains all the dependencies, all the NPM libraries that you've been using in your notebook. Here's a notebook I exported earlier to the interactive web format. This is the exported version of the DataForge cheat sheet that shows you everything you need to know to get started with DataForge. Here's another example notebook that I exported earlier to the Markdown format. I exported it to Markdown format so that I could host it as a GitHub gist. DataForge Notebook is available on Windows, macOS and Linux. It's a desktop app and it's not a hosted web application. This is great for your privacy because it means you store all your code and data on your own PC and you don't have to submit these to someone else's hosted service that runs in the cloud. The main ideas behind DataForge Notebook are productivity and visualization. It's zero configuration. You just install and then get to coding. Then you visualize your data as you work to make sure that your code is working as you expect. DataForge Notebook includes an embedded portable version of Node.js, so you don't need to install anything else to run your code. You don't even need to set up your project. You don't have to create a package file. You don't have to manually install any NPM modules. And if you're working in TypeScript, you don't have to create a tsconfig file, and you don't have to set up a build script. DataForge Notebook does all this for you. You can just start coding and be productive. Anything you can do under Node.js, you can also do under DataForge Notebook, and you have the world of NPM packages at your fingertips. So kickstart your coding with DataForge Notebook, and then later export your code to run in your production JavaScript environment. To get DataForge Notebook, head to dataforgenotebook.com.